Hi there, welcome to The Nation. If you're an avid watcher right here on Bernama News Channel, you will know that The Nation really focuses on current affairs and things that really do concern all of us across the nation. And that is what we're talking about today as well. Education, volunteerism, and beyond that, how two people have come together to bring a ray of hope to the younger generation here in Malaysia. Today's episode, though, a little bit more special. For the first time, we have a husband and wife team, and love, I guess, has brought them together. According to Carl Jung, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, then both are truly transformed. Not only have they transformed, but they're also transforming the nation. Please help me to welcome today the founder of Sol's 24/7, Raj Ridwan Singh, otherwise known as Teacher Raj, as well as his beautiful wife and managing director, Tanusha Singh, ex-beauty queen, turned journalist and educator, mother of two, and turned director. Welcome to the show. How are you guys today?
Hi, nice to meet you. Thank you so much for such a beautiful quote at the beginning.
I know, I read it and I thought, well, this couldn't be more true than for the both of you. Of course, you've been on the show before, and I think recently you came on as well. Let's go right back to the very beginning of this journey of both of you together. You, of course, beauty queen, turned journalist, and then you had your own thing going, whilst at that same time, Raj, you were with your dad trying to initiate this initiative. Then what happened? How did the love blossom?
We'll let Danu give her version.
So, of course, everyone has their own separate versions of this.
That's right.
Long story short, we have a mutual friend, and I think for me in particular, coming from a background where my family was very philanthropic, serving others was always something that was, since young, it's always been kind of something that we did. So when I found out what Teacher Raj was doing, I, of course, was very intrigued as to how could this be something that someone would do full-time. Because in my experience, you do it once in a while, touch and go, but this was actually someone who has dedicated his life to it, and I was very interested to learn more.
Yeah.
He was also quite handsome at that,
At that time, yes.
Still. So he was, of course...
10 years ago.
we all were younger and better looking.
Yeah. So of course that was there as well, and then I decided to actually take the step and find out whether I could also do this full time. Yeah.
And so at that point of time, Souls 24 was sort of a growing a baby, so to say, and you had then at some point joined that journey. But prior to that, you were still trying to get this initiative going.
Yeah. So I mean, Sol's is 18 years. We started in Cambodia, but when I met Danu, we literally had just come back, or I had just come back to Malaysia to start the program here. So really, she's been there from Sol's Malaysia day one, and I think as your question is how we got together. I mean, obviously, traditionally, right, like beauty queens or models or good-looking people are vain, and it's always about themselves. It's always about, they get into industries that don't. But with Danu, it was unique. Like she. Her big passion from that whole pageant, which she's obviously always embarrassed about, which I find funny, is the work that she did, when she went on her service. Was it Thailand or Cambodia, during the tsunami and the different efforts. You even went to India, right?
And Indonesia also.
And so I was like, wow, like the people don't.
She's different.
She's different, like and the fact that she was smart, and she had an opinion. And I was like, okay, wow, this is I got very lucky.
So it's not only that love blossomed, but both of you meeting each other also, I think, together kind of strengthened that life purpose. So at what point did you realize, well, I would like to be a part of the Souls 24 journey?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because what happened was that while I was in Malaysia, I was still a journalist, so I was writing for the New Straits Times at that point. But to actually see whether I could actually be a part of this journey, because this journey is, I guess, social service and the humanitarian sector. It's you have to put your whole thing in. You can't just say I'm going to do it sometimes.
Yeah.
You have to really put your whole heart and your whole time
Always
and
switched
effort.
on.
Yeah, which is what he was doing. So I wanted to see could I do that too. So I actually took the step to actually quit my job in Malaysia and moved to Timor-Leste for about a year plus. And I started out as a volunteer, so it was an unpaid position, of course, and it was teaching, which I had never done before. But I really, really loved it. And people used to ask me back home, like, okay, so when you come back from East Timor, are you going to continue being a journalist and stuff like that? And I said, you know, I really loved it. I really loved the team back when I was a journalist, but I think this is something that's really taken a hold of my heart, and I can't just turn around from it now.
Got to explore it. I've
yeah.
got to see
Yeah.
where this takes me. So at that point, what was your background like, and what kind of led you, what inspired you to further carry on the Souls 24 journey?
So after graduating and moving to Cambodia, we wanted to serve, right? And all our life, I mean, mid-80s we were in Papua New Guinea, and then mid-90s Cambodia, and then I come back, graduate, go back. The like the family values were always about service, right? So it's a big part of our religious belief that the real heights of spirituality is to serve others and do it, you know, unconditionally, and to do it in a big way, not just a part-time, you know. But I think why Malaysia was simple. We always assumed that. So I was in East Timor by then, so it's Cambodia, East Timor. We always thought that, you know, Malaysia was far advanced compared to Cambodia, East Timor, Myanmar, Laos. The education system was so much better. But then when we started hearing about all the gaps and the challenges, and the truth is charity begins at home.
True.
And we weren't here, right? So we were literally at that point of time the biggest Malaysian NGO in Cambodia or East Timor and everywhere else.
But not at home.
And not at home. And we had, you know, we were just Malaysian. So I think with that and realizing the challenges with the Indian community, you know, they're heavily marginalized, but worse still the Orang Asli and the Sabah and Sarawakian communities. That's what really shocked us, and was like, you know, we think our programs could work here.
So once both of you sort of joined hands in more ways than one, then what happened? How did you decide to roll out the arms and feet of Souls 24/7? Because you, of course, jumped, I think, right in, and while it was new for you, it was also something you were very interested in.
Well, I didn't have the background of experience that, of course, like, you know, Teacher Raj has and all that. But I think what really helped me cross that uncertainty and actually get full in was the team that we had surrounding us. Such a supportive team, and everyone was, you know, everyone was there for the same mission and trying to move towards the same goal, which was to empowering the youth and the communities in Malaysia. And that really helped me too, because then I had people to look up to. I had mentors.
But at that point, you're both starting your life out. This is a brand new chapter. And, you know, a lot of people would want to be perhaps ambitious in a different way to get rolling into, you know, the good life, so to say. But that seems to be different with the both of you.
Completely different. Completely, not at all.
We had gotten married when Dan was in East Timor, but then very quickly, as soon as when she was pregnant, and we realized, like, you know, it's time to go back. It's time to go home, and to do something, you know. So it wasn't, and I just felt like I had done enough in the third world countries.
Yeah.
By then it had been 10 years, 11 years, and I'm like, you know, maybe it's time to go home. Maybe it's time to see. And obviously I've got a kid on the way, you know, and there are better opportunities here. So that was the initial movement. But it was very tough, you know, because it's a different environment, right? In Malaysia, it's not like Cambodia or East Timor, right? There's structures, but these structures also come with bureaucracy and complications. And as much as everyone knows there's issues with the Indian communities, but then it's still very fragmented, it's complicated. Orang Asli even worse. No one wants to talk about it, you know, and so you're like, oh wow, this great infrastructure, but then there are weak systems.
And implementation.
Yeah, and almost like it was a designed system to marginalize these communities.
But this was 10 years ago. This was a decade ago.
This was, about 8-9 years ago.
8-9 years ago.
I think in a lot of truth, there has been a lot of improvement, but I still think we have a very, very long way to go.
So we're still on the subject of education and empowering the youth, something that I think is it has to be, it's work in progress, constant work in progress, and the both of you, I think, have really tried to push that barrier and push that ceiling. 10 years on today, what are some of the challenges you think on the Malaysian landscape that we're still facing?
I think we've barely scratched the surface, to be honest, in the past 10 years. I think the biggest challenge that we foresee is two. One is mastering or being proficient in the English language.
Right.
I think a lot of people, people have made this a debatable issue. We flip-flop between teaching English and maths and science in English, maths and science in Bahasa, and then we flip between that, and that creates a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
And then we flip back to Bahasa now. And then we came up with the dual language program. So it's like, I think we need to have structured systems. We need to first recognize that Bahasa Malaysia is our national language. It is our culture and our identity.
Right.
That is something we can never and ever should lose.
That's right.
And that's something that I champion. I think that even though I'm pushing English, I'm like, you got to have your culture and identity right. But I think we do.
Okay, we'll take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we will continue our discussions right here in the studio on The Nation. Don't go anywhere. Hi there, welcome back to The Nation. With me from the Science of Life Studies, or better known as SOLS 24/7, is its founder Raj Ridwan Singh, better known as Teacher Raj, as well as Managing Director Danucha Singh. And we're here to talk about perhaps the level of education here in Malaysia, the system that we have, what can be done to improve it. And here's an NGO that is pushing that boundary and trying to make a difference day by day. Before the break, we spoke about education at large and, of course, coming down into language. While BM we recognize is important and is an important part of our journey here, we also need to recognize that English, as you mentioned earlier, it can enable us, can open those doors for us. With that, also, SOLS 24/7 has developed an app. Tell us about that.
So let me just touch a bit on the importance of English. So it's funny, actually, our English journey started in a big way about 7 years ago, when Tan Sri Vincent Tan, who's one of our biggest benefactors, got us to meet Tun Mahathir. So he was out of government, chilling, and we went to meet him, and we talked about the importance of growing English and how we could do it. And it's at that time when Tun Mahathir with Tan Sri Vincent Tan said, let's do this Project 100, right? Which was, let's set up community centers throughout the country, because at that point of time, working through the government was going to be impossible or difficult, right? And we did that, and we had a lot of success bringing English to the rakyat through rural communities, including Sabah, Orang Asli communities, urban communities. It was a nationwide initiative. And interestingly enough, though, from that, 2.5 years ago, Ministry of Finance says, oh, okay, let's do a national English program, right? And they engaged us, and we got to also do it through the, previously known as the UTCs and RTCs.
Yeah.
We really got to train the rakyat, housewives, children, adults, senior citizens. And really you could see that the country started understanding, and not just the educated, but even in the rural areas or even in the semi-urban, they started seeing the value of English. People always say, like Kelantan, Terengganu, maybe they're not. It was funny, your best results came from Kelantan, Terengganu, and Pahang. That's where the community there really started feeling that value of the language and wanted to develop it. And here we had a methodology and a system that was simple. We could enable a fresh graduate or a retiree who speaks English, we could teach them our system.
Right. So while we have something that's already in place, a school system that's already in place, on the flip side here, you have your programs that are helping to give people those tools to
Yes.
open up their life, so to say. How does that bring that rays of hope? How does that really kind of, put them out there?
So I'll give you a very scary statistic, right? You have almost something like 70% of our SPM leavers who do not meet what is called employable English. This is after 11 years of studying English, 3,642 hours in school, and they don't speak. Now, we know the business world, academic world, travel, whatever, you need English. And can you imagine the disadvantage these kids are at because they don't have that? So for us, so obviously because we're not within the formal education
Right.
system, so we have to be at the after school program or the non-formal level, right? And what our program simply does is enable these kids who have zero English to get to a platform, get to a level, what we define as foundation English, to then participate in school, university, whatever, So that's really that's the biggest hope we feel that truly transforms. So whether it's school-going children, whether it's SPM leavers, whether it's even housewives or mothers, or even retired
Every
citizens,
layer.
every layer sees the value of that. And when you can bring them to that level, that what we define as employable English. Employable English means they can take instructions, give instructions, they can understand, they can communicate, they can reply emails. This is what we need.
How do we take the model that you have, obviously successful model, one that works, that produces results? How do we take that and combine that, or gel it, or so to
Yeah.
say, marry it
Yeah.
into the system?
Well, that's our dream. We want to work with the government. We want to work with the Ministry of Education. We can train existing. So we've got over 50,000 teachers who teach English in schools. That's 500,000 teachers. We believe with our system, within 2 to 3 weeks, we can teach the school teachers how to use our system. And they can then teach this to the students who have zero English, which is pretty much 60-70% of the school-going population, right? And we have the system, and if it's not cheap, it's free. So we are hoping that we can get that call. We've written to Dr. Mazli, we've written to Tun Mahathir, and we hope that we'll be given a chance to meet and show the program. Plus, the best part is Malaysian government has adopted CAFR. Sorry, we're going too much into English, but
Yeah.
I'll be very clear. CAFR is the standard, and we're a Cambridge authorized provider. So we follow the CAFR system, which means our students, we have a 96% success rate. Students who go through score. So we feel we have the methodology, the system, and we're humanitarian, so we're not driven for profit.
Let's look at the youth for now. You were saying that they have so much to share, so many ideas that we can really pick on and explore. Any plans with the newly minted Youth and Sports Minister or with the ministry?
I mean, he's cool. He's obviously very articulate,
Yeah.
but he's also very young. So I think he needs to have a lot of good people around him to advise him, to support him. But I mean, it's so exciting, right, to see a 26-year-old top debater, smart, articulate guy who has an opinion on so many things. So I had an article come out where I
Yes.
said, I think he should create a council of young leaders.
And I had loved that. Actually, I wanted to come back to that after this quick commercial break. I think we'll do just that. We take a quick breather. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Nation. Just like the Council of Eminent Persons or the Council of Elders, Teacher Raj from Souls 24/7 and his wife agree that there should be a Council of Young Leaders. Tell us about that.
So just like how you have the Council of Elders advising or giving input or even looking into matters for the Prime Minister, I think for the Youth Minister to really understand what's happening on the ground. Because many youth in Malaysia are disenfranchised, right? They don't really connect, they don't really relate, besides maybe say the urban ones to a certain extent. But even that, right? They spend time talking at the mama stalls about issues they face, but how do you bring it to the right audience? How do you bring it to the government? And I think that there's also a lot of great, brilliant young leaders. So if these young people can share the concerns and thoughts and demands and desires and challenges with the Youth Minister, I think we can have a lot of success.
How do you keep your ear to the ground to ensure that you know exactly what the pulse is with the youth and constantly keeping Souls 24/7 kind of new and fresh? Because it's very easy to fall into that whole routine and say, well, we do what we do,
Yes.
but that's it. And with youth, it kind of changes so fast.
Yes, I mean, I completely agree with you. And I think the first thing is that we actually work with a lot of young people. Our team is actually mostly made up of youth. I know in Malaysia, youth is until 40. So,
But you mean youth?
yes,
youth.
yes. Like we do work with a lot of youth. And also another thing is that we don't, so while we have programs that have been successful because of the years and experience and amount of effort we've put into building them. We don't just sit on that and rely on that. You see, for example, we've built that app. I think we mentioned slightly earlier. It's an education app, so it's called Sol's Edu, which you can download on the Google App Store and Android and all that, the Play Store. So what happens is that with that, anyone can literally sign in and they can have our English programs directly on their phone, on their computer, on their laptop.
Fingertips.
At their fingertips. So they don't actually need a teacher because it's a video and they can play that and watch that as well. So what we try to do is that, yes, we do have the traditional backing and knowledge and experience there, but we are also constantly always trying to innovate and find ways to make sure that we don't lose touch with the modern generation. Nowadays, kids, pen and paper, I mean, I honestly think people will learn to type faster than they would learn how to write, you know.
Right, that's
so we have to keep abreast with that. And I think the team we work with, because we are a young, dynamic team, they're constantly talking about this kind of things, like how to make it easier, how to make it faster, how to take less steps to get to the answer, which is what the youth now want.
What is the ultimate hope, the ultimate goal that the both of you have, and what do you think that means to the youth here in the country, for them to have a better future? Because both of you have two beautiful young kids as well, and I'm sure you want to see that translate into their future.
I mean, I think the ultimate goal would be for Malaysian youth to just have more awareness about the reality of life, I would say. I think that's something that's always at the core. But of course, to do that, you have to have your stomach full, we say. So you fill your stomach first, and that's through the hard skills like English, computers, or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, once you can get that, then your mind is free to actually think about how to make the world a better place, how to make your community a better place. And that's the platform that SOLS tries to give through our different programs such as NGO Hub, SOLS Health, which is our mental health program and department. I'm sure you have more as well.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like the goal is, I mean, Malaysia is a great country. You know, it's multicultural, it's beautiful, it's amazing. And how do we grow from that? You know, like, you know, I hate to regress, but I felt like when I went to school, it was better than now, right? Because parents are preferring private school and opting that over public school, which in my time, you know, public school was great. And I think
we all went to that system.
It was the only option.
Came out fairly okay.
Exactly. And if we can bring back that quality and you know, bring back that level of teachings and of course you got to innovate because the world moves forward, right? Technology. That's why English is a big part, but so is computer science, right? We're Cambridge partner. We're also Google education partner. And how do you marry the two? And my hope and dream is to continuously, well, from the non-profit sector is how do we end poverty in Malaysia? But also from a social enterprise, how do you be sustainable? How do you make sure you can be sustainable, generate income, but create real impact?
Because the truth is, we can't keep running the same system that we've been doing.
Exactly.
We can't keep that going on anymore because we do need to change. And I think to a large extent, perhaps we haven't caught up. We have a lot of catching up to do. Right?
Yes. So in some areas, technologically, in some areas we are very advanced. But in some core areas, we still have a lot of catching up. But the best part, and this is what I find very exciting in Malaysia, we have the people. You know,
we have the talent.
We have the talent, the brilliant Malaysians. And I think with the new government, there's a lot of hope. And I think a lot of people will now, if given the opportunity, will stand up and will give services. You know, and I think, and that's my hope, where we as the citizens, we participate actively in our governance, which previously we never did. There was a clear divide between the people, government. I think one of my greatest hope is when the people participate in that governance. And I really believe that with the new government, that can become a possibility. And I believe that's a big part of their agenda.
We all think and move as one.
Exactly.
As MD of Souls 24, any parting thoughts, Danu, before we let you both off?
Yes. I mean, there's so many. We've touched on such a wide breadth of topics. I think coming back to maybe the hope, I think the reason why we both came back to Malaysia from Timor-Leste is because we really love our country, and we really want to put, you know, like, I guess, our hands where we can be the most effective and to be the most of benefit, and that's to our country. I mean, like you said, we've all grown up in public schools.
Absolutely, and
You know?
we are
and we're here and
proof
we're
of that,
fine,
that works. Thank you so much to the both of
Thank
you
you.
for being in the studios. I know lots of things to do to help change and innovate and educate the nation, but this does mean a lot, and we hope that all of you at home enjoyed watching our conversation here on The Nation. Keep it locked on to Bernama News Channel for more updates coming your way. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you.